Okay. Everyone, please smash that like button. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. So let's move on. So in my last stream, I talked about Malcolm X's classic words about uh, not taking leadership from entertainers. Okay. Not because you can't necessarily trust them, but entertainers can show us some very valuable things. And that leads me into my next question. So the watershed moment for a lot of people was Ice Cube and the cocktails with Queens. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Conversations with Queens.
yeah,
Yeah. So that was a seminal moment. Again, that if you weren't, I doubt that they covered that on MSNBC or CNN,
hmm
but it was right there. And
yes,
Cube drew a lot of criticism for that because he was
hmm
called a Trump supporter.
hmm
He's since drawn a lot of criticism since then for that interview with Tucker Carlson. But he and the Queens, they showed us something very, very interesting. He brought an agenda, which I think Dr. Claude Anderson was one of the uh, um,
yeah,
architects of that.
hmm
And Claudia and Lisa Ray was kind of quiet, but Claudia and others, they said, "Well, what's in that? What's in that for Black women?"
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's when the whole thing that's when the whole debacle kind of evaporated, and Ice Cube said, "Well, what? Aren't you Black?" And
right, right,
it was very, very
right.
cringe, but it was also very, very educational in that they saw themselves different from the
Yes.
group he was trying to present. So, Dr. T, was was this agenda forming before that, or was that one of the genesises of the agenda?
Well, we started it in 2020 on my
Okay,
channel, and I think that came before. I don't remember what exact month and year that was for with Ice Cube and the Cocktails with Queens. But the interesting thing about that, again, that's another example of what I call the Black masculine's turn. Dr. Ronald Neal, dubbed it the Ice Cube effect. But I was looking at that moment because I saw a lot of Black men for the first time get smacked in the face with the reality of we are not on the same page. You know what I mean? Those women were very clear. No, there needs to be something for women, but nobody asked the question, was there anything in it for men? Cube left it very gender neutral. And I think he did so on purpose. But the problem is once you start to gender the dynamic, gender the discourse, gender what he was trying to produce, we only are aware of doing so for women and girls, maybe LGBT. But not even men, not even Cube really thought about what Black men and boys may need in a direct way, right? I don't even think Cube knows how to think that way. And that's not a diss on Cube. That goes for most of us. I didn't. Most of us don't until you actually see how it's done. And then you start thinking about all the things that you've endured that you just accept, but never really thought of in a political manner before. You know what I mean? I think for many men, and this tends to be across race, we accept our fate. We accept the reality of the environment, and it doesn't really dawn on us to actually politicize what it is we're not happy with. We just accept it. Women don't tend to. Women complain, and that complaint can turn into various type of activism. We get involved in activism in a very general way, but we really don't think about it in terms of ourselves and our demographics. And you'll still have men that'll suggest to you that this act being active on your own political behalf as a demographic of men, there's something weak about it. There's something complain oriented about it, so on and so forth. But it really is a process, to get us to understand that our political needs are no less valuable or important than anybody else's. If they want your vote, they should be able to cater to your needs, and you should be able to articulate what those needs are. And those are basic political premises that we all function off of, but we don't always apply. So, first question to answer is what are our political needs? And you have to, kind of walk into this with the belief that they are relevant. And you're going to make them relevant if somebody wants your vote. Otherwise, they don't get it. And I'll tell you, the party that figures out the question for me isn't really the primary voter bases and who has control over them. The question for me is, which party can galvanize people that are just completely disinterested? Those are the votes that I would think a political party would be most interested in. And you get the people that have been turned out of the process, that don't see themselves in it, that don't see, that anybody's listening to them. That to me can be a kind of tidal wave to tap into. And there's a lot of different demographics that are involved in that. So in order to do that, at the very least, you got to let people know what it is you need. And I've had people come forth and they say, well, this is unrealistic. This will never happen. Maybe, but there's a lot of stuff that's happened politically in terms of policy that was unrealistic at one point or another. And we already starting to see more and more politicians. I had a politician come into my show just last week, and he wrote me privately after the show, after he declared himself a politician, part of a network of other black male politicians that use the black male political agenda to determine how they're going to navigate their campaigns. That didn't happen in 2020. It was a process just to get here. And I'm not saying we're anywhere near the end of it, but I'm saying all of this is a process. So let's have the discussion.
Okay. Well, we're going to come back to that. That's fascinating. And that's encouraging to hear. Dr. T, I'm going to bring this data set